make, I'm going to make 5 different pumpkins. The first one will be a stuffed sock pumpkin. The next one will be a wooden block pumpkin. Then I'm going to do a plaster of Paris pumpkin. I'm going to very easy twine pumpkin. And then I'm going to do a twine wrapped, one of these styrofoam pumpkins that I picked up from Poundland. So these were £1 each, and the rest of this is just stuff that I've had around. So an old sock, bits of driftwood from a previous driftwood mirror video that I've done, old bits of wood that are just hanging around from the house, bits of twine from my craft room, an old pair of tights, some masking tape, and this plaster of Paris that I have for the kids, but I just picked it up off Amazon. It's like a kilogram. I think it was about £6 or so, £6. So I've got a few extra bits on top of this. So I've got my glue gun, got some green twine as well to make some leaves up. Got a little bit of ribbon to try and decorate a few extra little bits on top, just to make them look pretty and lovely. So for this make, I've got lots of little tubs around, as you can see. So I need to make up the housing that's going to hold the pumpkin. So this is an old tight that has had the foot previously cut off. So I just need to band that up to make a base. And it's literally just going to be like that. Just make sure you do it enough times so that it is secure. There we go. And then what I do is I just make sure that they're all level, and then just trim off that last little bit there. Okay, then you have the base of your pumpkin, and then I'm going to cut off near the top and get rid of that excess. So that tight there is going to form our pumpkin. Right, so now I need to make up the plaster of Paris. So the recipe is 1.5 cups of plaster to 1 cup of water, and you always add the plaster to the water, not the other way around. So I'm just going to use the big tub as a holder for my mixer tub. So take out the plaster of Paris, like so. And I've got my measuring cup here, and it's half a cup. So I'm going to need 3 of those. I've already measured out 1 cup of water. So I gently tip that in to my mixing pot. There we go. And I need 3 of these to go in. That's 1. 2. And that's 3. Get that one in there. And then I have got this little lollipop measuring stick. That's for a minute. And then just gently mix that until well combined. Please give this video a big thumbs up, and if you're not ready, subscribe to my channel to be one of the first to know when I upload a new crafty inspiration video. And there we have it. That is mostly all combined plaster of Paris with water. And the next thing I need to do is get that into my tights. So put that to one side. And how I'm going to do this, I'm going to use the mug that I had the water in. I'm going to quickly dry it off slightly. There we go. Put that down and put my tights inside and just over the top like that. Make it easy to do. And I've got a spoon, so I can easily just tip it straight in. You could also pick up from here and tip in if you wished, but I just find this easier. I've got a little bit more control over this. And that last little bit, put the mug in there. Then we can just gently tease it in. Like so. And then what you need to do is you need to get another snag. Just bring up the tights and gather them up together. There will be a lot of liquid loose. It's just the way it works with these. And slowly There we go. Get that out there, just liquid come loose. Go like that. And then just bag it up and tie it there at the top of all the plaster of Paris. Like so. And again, I'm going to cut the top off so we don't have excess tight material just hanging around. Just quickly wipe my hands because it's a little bit of a messy job. And then the next step we need to do is we need to get the pumpkin segments onto our plaster of Paris pumpkin. So how it is, I have a little tray. This, and I'm using some twine. I cut 4 lengths. 1, 2. You can use thread. 3, 4, or you can use embroidery thread or sewing thread or anything that you have really. It doesn't really matter. It's just to tie up over it while it dries to form the shapes. I'm using this rather old masking tape, as you can see. I'm going to set these out into a star shape over here, over the lid, which I'm going to use as a tray to balance my plaster of Paris pumpkin on as I tie it up. And it doesn't really matter if the lid's not centralised to start with, because you can just obviously shift that about before we start tying up the pumpkin. But I just find tacking out the string like this helps it stay put when you're doing this on your own. If you've got a little helper, then they can obviously help you. But if you haven't, for the time you're making this, this is an easy way of doing it. Let's bring that in a little bit. There we go. So there you can see, got your shapes on there. And then I just centralise the lid into the middle. And then we pick up our pumpkin and we literally just splodge him down into the middle of our star. And then what we need to do is we just need to tie these up. So you take them off one by one and you bring it up and you tie it in. Now I've done this previously and made the mistake of pulling them in a little bit too tight, because you want to be able to take them off again afterwards. So you just want like a little indent in your pumpkin. So you can see where it pulls in at the sides there, like that, and then just double knot that off. And I'll do the top to bottom. And just taking your time to make sure you've got equal, because you can adjust your strings before you pull them tight. There we go. Tie that one off. And go on the diagonal. Tie that off. Actually, I'm going to readjust that one slightly. So it's made that. Bring it over slightly there. There we go. Just so it's a little bit more equal there. Again, it's not the end of the world if it isn't, I guess. I just like it to be pleasing to look at. And then the final one on the last diagonal. Again, a line where you want your string to come up and pull up through and tie that. And that is your pumpkin ready to dry. Now you need to leave this for about an hour or so before we can take the tights and the string off. And then once we've taken the tights and the string off, we need to let it dry for about 4 hours or so and let it, or potentially overnight, before we can paint it. So I'll let that dry. This plaster of Paris pumpkin has been drying now for 1 to 2 hours. I think it's nearly 2 hours. And as you can see, I can pick it up now. It's kept its shape. Wow. So what we're going to do now is remove off the string and the tights, and then I'm going to put it aside again and let it dry for another 4 hours-ish. So if I just get the scissors and cut through the string. Now I just need to remove the ties. So you just grab the bit that you tied up earlier, cut the top off, and these literally just peel away down the side. Do make a little bit of a mess, so you're going to have to tidy up after yourself. You just peel it down the side to reveal your pumpkin. And then you're going to put that to one side now and let that dry for another 4 hours or so, and then we will paint it slightly. I'm going to wash it with a creamy white, and we're going to put a little twine or burlap bow on the top with a little stick coming out, and that will go on the side with the other pumpkins. So now the Plaster of Paris pumpkin has been drying for 4 hours or more. Still feels a little bit damp, but I'm going to see how it goes. And I've got this winter grey Rust-Oleum furniture paint, and this is just like a chalk paint. I'm going to give that a go over it. I like the colour of it. It's a really, really light grey, but it's not quite white. Just gives it a nice little, there you go, you can see there. It should give it a nice finish. So I've got this big brush just to slop it on. I don't want to be any particular detail with it. I just want to get it on there, get the paint on there and let it dry. I'm just going to leave that to dry for a few minutes, maybe 10-20 minutes, and then I'll turn it over and I'll paint the other side. That side's dried reasonably, turn it over and give it another lick of paint with the grey on the top side. Now leave that to dry again, and we can add a little bit of decoration on the top. So in the end I cut out a leaf shape of that burlap ribbon and stuck that on for the middle. I got another bit of old driftwood that I got laying around and stuck that in again, attached both with glue gun. And then the edging of the ribbon that I cut off to make this leaf, I wrapped one piece around the stalk and then another piece, just left it loose and just tacked it on there, and at the back just add like a little bit of trailing from the pumpkin, so it's just loose there like that. So that's how my pumpkin ended up. So this next pumpkin I'm making is a twine pumpkin. So I'm literally using this fine twine here, and I'm going to be wrapping them around my fingers and securing them with this really fine like jewellery floristry wire. And then once I've done 8 segments of those, I will be attaching them to this thicker bit of twine here, which I've cut and then secured just with a bit of glue gun around the top there, just to hold those frayed ends together. With a longer bit of wire here, just to wrap around the middle, just to secure in place. And then I'll hide that with a little bit more twine. And then that would be our little pumpkin done. So what we do is we use our 3 fingers and then we wrap it around about 6 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Cut that off. Grab a piece of wire. And then we just twist that on to secure. Like so. And I'll just wrap that around again just to secure it in place. There we go. Keeping an extra length so that it can be attach that to the larger bit of twine as we go. So I'll need to do 8 of these. You can do 6 if you want, but I prefer 8 because it gives a slightly larger, a bit fuller pumpkin in the end. So I just get on with these and do 8 segments of the pumpkin. And then we have our 8 segments for our pumpkin. Now using this, now I'm thinking this might be a bit too big now. I might cut this off a little bit further. Let's have a look. How tall do I want it? I reckon about there. Now this is quite thick twine, so it takes a bit of cutting. There we go. And then again, to stop it unraveling, just put a couple of blobs of hot glue where it would touch the others, just to hold it in place. Doesn't matter if it unravels a little bit. I quite like the slightly rustic look it gives. It looks a little bit like a pumpkin stalk, which is the idea. There we go. Okay, so that will be our pumpkin stalk. So we get our twine, twine hoops, work out which way up you want them down, and then you just secure them one by one around the stalk. So using the wire you've got, you can just wrap them round and put in place, and then just move on one by one. And the last one in. These get a little bit fiddly towards the end because you have to sort of wrap your fingers around to try and get the wire to secure in place. But it will go. Bit of patience, like with all crafting. Bit of patience and you'll get there. Just keep going. And there we go. So now that is them all secured. And what I'm going to do is just hide that wire. Get another bit of twine. Not much, a little bit. Add a dab of glue in there and secure that on. Let that dry. Like that. And then just feed that round inside. That, and just keep wrapping it round and round until you've covered all or as much of the wire as you want. If you like the wire, you can leave it. You can get different coloured wires as well. I'm using obviously this bright silver wire, which doesn't quite feed into the rustic farmhouse vibe, but what you can do, you could get black wire or green wire would look quite good. So if you actually get proper floristry wire, then it could actually feed in well to the look and feel of the pumpkin. So just keep wrapping it around till you've covered up the wire like that. Remember, it's going to be inside so people won't see as much anyway. And then once done, just again another blob of hot glue and put in place like so. And then just pull and fluff out your pumpkin bit by bit until you're happy with what you've got. And they're very cute, very easy, very simple to do. And there is a really cute little twine pumpkin. For this pumpkin, we've got these 2 wooden blocks. Got this slightly smaller, fatter one and this taller, skinnier one. And these are quite rustic and old. I've just picked these up from leftovers of bits of wood we've been doing around the house. I'm going to paint these with this mixture of black and acrylic paint with water, just to give it a black wash over them. And then once they've dried, I'm going to do again the same, but with orange. So the orange will come slightly through the black. And then once they're dry, I'm going to stick on a stalk, an old bit of twig, and do a twine bow or a ribbon bow to go on the top. So now these blocks have near enough dried. It doesn't matter that they're not quite dried because they're going to smudge into each other a little bit. So I'm going to do the orange on them. So I'm going to get a mix of this really bright orange, and I'm going to dull it down ever so slightly because it's a little bit too bright for what I'm after, with the brown. And then mix those together, and then using this sponge, I'm just going to wipe this over the blocks where the black is and give it like just a rough dried. So take off as much as I can, like that. Then I'm just going to, like that, just wipe it over the block. And I might do a couple of coats because this will dry quite quick, but I wanted it so that the black showed through a bit. There you go. So once those sides are dry, I'm going to do the other back and the side. It's just a little bit on the top of these two. Again, it's just going to tap it on just to give it that kind of rustic orange and black look, like that. There we go. So once they're dry, I shall do, like I said, the back and the side, back and the side. I won't bother doing the bottom because they're going to be stood up. Rest them down to dry. And I'll come back to them in about 10 minutes when the fronts are dry. Now the orange has dried a little bit more. Again, it doesn't have to be fully dry because it is just meant to be a rustic look. So I just turned it over to paint a bit more. Do the first coat on the other sides. There's our pumpkins that just need to dry. And then whilst they're drying, oops, Daisy. And whilst they're drying, I shall make the bow stick on the top. So once these block pumpkins are dry, I have these 2 bits of stick that I've broken in half. So it's one piece that I've broken in half, and they're going to glue on the top of these pumpkins. And I'm also going to make a green twine bow, one for each of them, to go on the top. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to wrap it around my hand 6 times. 3, 4, 5, 6. Maybe a couple of extra just to give it extra fullness. And snip that off. Then get a little bit of twine. And then just tie it around the middle of your jute. Like so. That into a double bow, and then pull both strands down so that they will hang out the bottom of the bow like that, and then that will sit on the edge. And I cut these so they are the same length, like so. There we go. And then once that's stuck on, that will sit on the front like so. I'm going to make one more for the other one and then wait for these to dry, and I'll assemble it all together. So to finish these block pumpkins, I'm going to add the top parts to them. So I have got these 2 bits of stick, choosing the slightly larger ones for that one and one for here. I'm using my glue gun, just put a blob of glue on the top, like that, and stick him on at an angle, like so, and do the same to this one. like that. And then I want to add these bows on the front so they hang down slightly. So blob on the front of that and just place the bow on. There we go, and same on this side. A blob. Let's trim off the excess, a little bit of string there. There we go, and stick the bow on. And we have a block pumpkin and a slightly squatter block pumpkin. Okay, for my next pumpkin, I'm going to do a stuffed sock pumpkin. So it's similar to the Plaster of Paris pumpkin that's also on this video. Without using the Plaster of Paris and less mess, just get this doll stuffing that I've got here, some wadding, whatever you can get hold of, and an old sock, and we literally just stuff it into the sock. So, but what I'm going to do is I am going to cut off the bottom of the sock, same as I did with the tights, just to get a flat base for our pumpkin. And then using these snags, I'm going to gather it up. So actually, if I do it inside out and then turn it the other way, then you won't see the gather on the bottom. And depending on whether we want it upside down or not, we'll see what it looks like once we stuffed the pumpkin and wrapped it with the twine and pulled the segments through. There we go. And that could be a flat base for your pumpkin. So then we just get your stuffing and we literally just stuff to how much or how big you want your pumpkin to be. It's completely up to you. I like these quite a good size. And you can do all these different sizes so you can get your colour themes. You could use an orange sock if you wanted an orange pumpkin. If you're going for your farmhouse effect look, so you could use black and white. You might be able to use a check one. Cream sock, all different colours that you have that you can use. So there we go, is make sure you get that in nice and good. Then using the twine again, off at the top, like so. Done, and cut that off close, and then what I'm going to do is just a little bit of hot glue around the base of that sock there and just push it down so it sits as flush as it can. It adds to the like rustic look of a pumpkin. So now what we need to do is we need to make the segments for our pumpkin. So similar to the Plaster of Paris pumpkin that is on this video, we cut out twine. And in this instance, I'm using twine specifically because you'll see it at the end of the video. There we go. Is that 4? I think I've cut an extra, but that's fine. So, and we do the same. I tack these out because otherwise I run out of hands to be able to do this. So one straight down, then do one across. It's not quite equal, so just move that across slightly. And then on the diagonal, like so. And then the other diagonal, which gives us the 8 pumpkin segments I'm looking for. Like that. And we place our pumpkin in the middle, and then same as with the Plaster of Paris pumpkin, we just pull these up and tie them. Just got to be a little bit more careful with this one because these will show to a certain degree. And again, we don't want to pull in too tight because we don't need to have it. you want to be able to see the segments, and I quite like being able to see the twine. I think it adds to the pumpkin the overall sort of rustic feel, which is what I'm trying to achieve with all these. And then you just readjust your segment as you go to get it as equal as you feel necessary, really. If you're not fussed about having equal segments, then don't worry about that. There we go. Third one. Tie that in, like so, and then the last one. Up there and up there, that's it. And then pull that in to make the final segment on our pumpkin. Like that. And there you can see, and at that point again you can adjust if you wish. This is easier because it's just material. And there's a little 8 segmented pumpkin there. Okay, I'm going to do is using this offcut of the twine from another pumpkin. I'm going to tuck that in there and tie that off, and then I'm going to tie this round just so, using up these ends like this. So I need to glue that in. So if you just grab your glue gun, just going to secure that to a certain degree together so it doesn't unravel anymore. Blob of glue in there and stick that on in. Now you can do that straight up or at an angle if you wish, whatever you fancy. And then bit by bit, just going to wrap these round and stick them down. A blob of glue onto themselves. And be careful with your glue gun because obviously it can be quite warm. So then these lower ones here. And there we have a very cute sock stuffed pumpkin ready for display. So this pumpkin is going to be a twine wrapped pumpkin. I got this styrofoam pumpkin from Poundland It was £1. It wasn't one of their more expensive ranges now that they have. Little label. So pull that out. So using my glue gun, I'm going to attach the twine, just wrap it round, and you just keep going. You could always paint the pumpkin if you didn't want the glittery paint to show through first, but I'm not too bad. If it has a bit of a hue of orange about it, that's okay. And this one here, I'll avoid the battery section at the bottom here because it lights up. So I'll keep that the same. The kids all like that. So that'll shine through the twine, and I'll finish it off. I'll do the twine all the way up to the top, and we'll do some kind of ribbony bow leaf thing on the top once it's fully twine wrapped to see what it looks like. Just thinking about what to put on it on the top to brighten it up a little bit. So I have these, this old bit of burlap, cotton burlap that I bought last year. So I was thinking what I might be able to do is I might be able to maybe make a little bow or something to go on here, that, or even just scruff up a bit of material to go around, add a little bit of a wrap around the top like that, just so it looks a little bit cute. Okay, so what I might do is I need a slightly longer piece than those two. So I'll cut a little bit longer out of my material. Put it on side. This piece here. So we'll cut a 3 check wide strip. Off for a little bit longer. Yeah, that's quite a while. Let's into that. Check. There we go. 3 down. that. And trim that off right to the end of this piece. Okay. And then work out how I'm going to do that. So what I could do is if I just twist it round like that, and then I'm just going to put it in like that and maybe have a couple of 2 leaves out like this, so it's like a little scarf for the pumpkin. But I'll trim them off so they're a different size once they're on. So I'll just secure that on there with a bit of glue, hot glue. Same there, so it all sort of stays down. Okay. Twist it over again. One more twist so it joins here. That's it. And then bring that one under. Twist that one over one more time and stick that one in, but underneath. There we go. Let's just cut this into like and the other one. Okay, so I curve them slightly to give them like a leaf style shape. And then we have a little twine wrap pumpkin, a little scarf on the top, ready to be displayed. And if I turn the light on, there we go. And it glows through there like that. So in the dark, that'll still flash. Fantastic.